Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome all today to a very special LinkedIn live session with Pankit Desai. Pankit Desai is the CEO and co-founder of Sequretek, and we look forward to discussing with him about the impacts of Gen AI in cybersecurity. So, Pankit, welcome, warm welcome to you, first of all, and I look forward to the next 30 minutes of productive discussion with you. With that, Pankit, why don't you can you tell us a bit about the tech that you do that you build at Securetech and how do you use Gen AI in cybersecurity?
Sure. So thank you so much. Thank you all for listening in at 3 in the afternoon. It takes a lot of effort, I guess, post lunch to show up for a very content heavy conversation as cybersecurity. So this was the true believers, I guess, for lack of a better word. So we at SecureTech have been on the security journey for about 10 plus years now. And while we started like any other traditional security company with a set of products that were more rule based, heuristics, behaviors, more predefined set of use cases based outcomes. Over the last few years, we have really been able to see a lot of value originally with machine learning, then deep learning, and now with Gen AI, allowing us to really do three things. One, reduce the alert fatigue that used to come out from an operation standpoint. Second is the ability to weed out false positives that were kind of coming in. And the third aspect rather, was unlike any other industry where AI will get implemented, we have a continuously changing threat landscape. So what used to happen is that something would change and then an analyst would have to understand it and then process it and then update a set of rules or signatures or behaviors as the case might be and then inform the systems. You have the ability for the machine learning or AI now to be able to do that activity on the fly. So if you empower the engine, a lot of those activities can be done on the fly. So just to give you an example, in our own SOC operations, when we were processing about 300 million events daily, we were roughly about a team of 65. Now today we do about 10 billion events, almost 30 times more than what we used to process. Our teams have barely gone up by 50% now. So that's the
Oh,
power of
okay,
what AI can deliver to us. And
okay.
one thing which was also a question, an issue with AI with security was the usability aspect of it. So if you had to do any analysis and search, you really had to depend on a predefined set of drop-down menus or a predefined set of reports. And ability therefore to search was fairly elitist, for lack of a better word, because you needed to know security to be able to search. With NLP coming in, you are now able to fire a query. So let's say, for example, I could just fire a query saying, please tell me the top 10 assets which are under attack for a region in North America or a region in North Delhi or whatever. So very, very contextual search you could type and you'll be able to get the data very quickly. So that's the power that we are able to see with AI.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you started off as a traditional cybersecurity company, and then essentially you were able to adopt a lot of new tech as it came. So I want to double click on what you said with respect to NLP and AI integration in your products or in wider tech domain, right? Essentially, there's been a lot of thought, a lot of discussion about the intersection of Gen AI and security. While it is true that it opens a lot of possibility, many still argue that the adoption is yet to take place in a big way. So before essentially this becomes sort of like mainstream, we still are looking at least 2 to 3 years of time frame, right? So what are your thoughts on this school of thought that essentially adoption is still yet to happen using not AI but Gen AI in the cyber products?
So essentially, security is not an LLM use case. You work on a risk, so it's more an SLM, a small language model use case, right? So the large language model, just the veracity, volume, and variety of data. So the velocity, volume, and variety of data is not very high compared to what you would crunch for, let's say, ChatGPT or Gemini for Google, right? Having said that, there is enough now in from an SLM perspective that you can start branching out to creating a set of opportunities that can, as I had said earlier, to either reduce the alert fatigue or improve the outcomes that you are supposed to look at. So I still feel, as you and I think you kind of alluded to, it is still on the periphery of how the technology manifests itself in its environment,
Mm-hmm.
but periphery is how the user interacts. So the value is seen very, very quickly. Now,
Hmm.
the internals of it may still be some combination of how it was being done earlier and some uh, capabilities of the new ones that you're trying to combine, because still we haven't, I don't think we've trusted the system completely to be
Hmm.
able to leave it to the newer ways or new LLMs, or to be able to identify that all threats now will be done by AI and there's no human intervention.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
second aspect is there is a lot to lose if you were to go wrong. So there's still that trust factor that is kind of missing. And
Hmm.
that over a period of time, as one becomes comfortable with the outcomes that we get, we hopefully should transition to that journey that we're able to use the technology for a large part versus a small part as it is being done today.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting that you mentioned about essentially the threat part of Gen AI. Right? I think ask you one of the common questions that people have in mind, right? Which is essentially when the whole Chat GPT came into being. I remember very vividly 1.5 2 years before, everyone said that attacks are going to come into increase exponentially, right? Others like our normal like the protections that we have, BTDR, still largely seems to have be taking care of the threats that are originating with from Gen AI. So, what do you feel about using Gen AI to launch cyber attacks? Do you see that happening in the current landscape? Did the actual cost of attack come down recently with the Gen AI?
Yeah, so three areas where I see a fairly direct impact, and it will only go up. So one is there's already now a public case study of a malware being written using Gen AI, right? So you are able to use the technology, and there's, I think, a demonstrable case study paper that just got released
POC, yeah.
recently. Yeah, so I mean, if it has happened as a POC, I'm sure the attackers have already done it and are using it. So cost of creating something new will dramatically go down. So that is, let's say if I was to divide an attack into three components. One is creating the actual payload, identifying the vulnerability to launch the payload, and then actual carrying out of the campaign to be able to get the payload to be installed. If you were to divide it in three parts, the first part, which is creating the payload, there is already a demonstrable proof of concept. The identification of vulnerabilities, that has anyway been a well-crafted business where nation states themselves contributing a lot to it in terms of identifying and keeping it close-chested to
Yeah,
themselves, and so do the attackers. Not too sure how much role AI has played into it already. I have not seen
correct,
evidences of it. Not to say mine is the
correct.
only experience that counts, but I have not seen
Yeah.
evidence of it. But the last part, which is taking it to the end user, that part has significantly been improved. So whether you take the deepfake attacks through the social engineering capabilities, or the ability to reach and craft messages that are very, very contextual, that AI has done a
Tremendous job.
I'm grudgingly saying phenomenal job in the wrong sense here, but that abuse is fairly out there and to be seen, right? And now you are seeing it in the kinds of messages that you get as an individuals. Forget about from a security perspective, the kind of messages that you get on a WhatsApp or you're getting it on an email. These are absolutely contextual to who you are, and I'm already seeing that come out. And we already saw with the deepfake attacks now how they're able to launch
Correct.
contextual conversation. Now, I've seen a couple of cases where video calls were made, and with all
Correct.
the
Correct.
context of people around you and with the place that you were supposed to be. Now, that is a fairly detailed information about you that they've been able to capture and launch it. So we are going to see some really tough times till the technology catches up, right? So I always used to say that that whole security awareness strategy that companies used to have, where we used to use this phishing campaigns and all of that, has to be completely rethought, because now I'm not communicating with you on official channels. I'm communicating to you with Instagram or Snapchat
Yeah.
or WhatsApp or whatever other mechanisms, and there is no. So you may have bought the best email phishing security tool, but I'm not talking to you on that. I'm talking to you on a
Hmm,
personal
hmm,
device. Now, how does that come into picture from a security awareness perspective, right? So,
hmm,
so a lot of things is still a catch-up mode for us, but as usual,
hmm.
the attackers have taken the lead there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think one fairly scary use case that I saw was this. I think about a month ago or so, I saw on LinkedIn that one researcher was able to just fake his face as Mark Zuckerberg and so many other Elon Musk. It was not still convincing enough, but they are saying that essentially, like for most of the checks that our banks do for KYC verification, they sort of, if they can do, if they are doing on video calls, then that could be potentially faked. So it is definitely a bit scary,
Yeah, but
and I was just
think about it today. You can give a testimony by video call
correct,
for your
correct,
for your police cases, right? You don't have
yeah,
to go to a court and a video testimony is
yeah,
accepted. But now, what's the guarantee that it was true? You gave the testimony, right? So, a
yeah.
lot of things get appended as
Hmm.
technology becomes mainstream or the abuse of technology becomes mainstream. So, while on one hand we are
Yeah.
talking about the use of technology, this will be the abuse of technology that we have to figure out what it's going to look like and how we are going to respond to it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's actually quite scary because if someone one person could do it, imagine what a potential nation state actor or someone who has a very big sort of resources can potentially
Yep,
abuse the system too.
yep, yep. That is
So
true. That
moving
is true.
forward, right? Yeah, sorry.
No, good, good. I agree with you. I'm
Okay.
saying.
Moving forward, you did mention in the very beginning about the alert fatigue that people have and how you are essentially using AI in reducing some of that alerts that comes into being. Right. One of the reasons of this is there's so many sources of data that goes into any cyber solution. Let's say from network traffic, say like endpoint traffic, user behavior, and so on and so forth. So like how do you think, how are you using gen AI or AI for that matter to reduce some of these alerts that goes into the user? Can you throw some light on this?
So, great question, by the way. So two part, there's a problem with specifically from a security monitoring standpoint, where this is a more contextual issue that comes in. Uh, so, there's one big aspect of any security monitoring technology is the ability to collect the data from the sources.
Correct.
Now, and each source will generate data in a very different format. Or some are log based, some are deliberately based, some are flow based, right? So, depending on what device you're talking about, and each device thinks about what it generates as data in the way it is assumed what the security parameter is. And as a receiver of data, sometimes you really do not know what is important, what is not important. So you may
Correct.
over collect information, right? So
Hmm.
one is over collection of information that comes in because let me first bring it in and then I'll see what I got to do with it, right? So
Hmm.
instead of me trying to figure out at the source itself what I'm going to do with it. So
Hmm.
one is that issue. The second issue that you have is that each device generates a log in a specific format, and therefore, when you write a connector and a parser, it has to
Hmm.
be able to understand what fields I have to pick up from that. And then there's
Hmm.
a change in the source system.
Hmm.
Sometimes the log format from 20 characters will become 24 characters. And a lot of time you don't even know that changes are made because as you rightly said, there are hundreds of different systems. So even in a given category, let's say take a firewall or a router or a switch or a syslog server, the formats change very, very often, right? And very
Hmm.
difficult for a provider to keep track of every single thing. A lot of time, therefore, when a change happens, it's only
Hmm.
when something gets missed is you kind of
Hmm.
go back to see, what I missed. Oh, then I guess, oh, that format got changed, and therefore I was only getting half the data, and some critical data got missed out and all that. Right? So
Hmm.
these two are very big problems that exist today when you do
Hmm.
both the volume and variety of
The
devices that
source.
you are going to connect with. So,
Hmm.
so we've seen a very good, effective use case, and we have just launched an alpha version of it. Is the
Hmm.
ability to use AI to be able to parse data automatically. So now
Hmm. Okay.
what this therefore means is that you can keep changing sources. All you have to
Hmm.
do is point me to place where the log or telemetry is getting generated. We
Hmm.
pick it up and then we use AI to be able to parse it automatically because I know what I need. So you just show me what you are having, and I will be able to pick it up. So today we are at about a 75-80% accuracy, and therefore only have to work on the 20%. And hopefully, as we become more competent, we are able to solve that problem of collecting information when it changes, right? So, or rather, collecting information irrespective of the changes that may happen into the
Correct,
environment.
correct, correct.
And the same thing holds true, therefore, of what I'm collecting, because I know what I therefore need. And when I look at the data that is incoming, I can decipher and say, okay, you know what, I only want this sliver of data, and therefore I should only process this much, right? So I think that is where, and again, a lot has to be still done, but I think this is where the market is headed. This is where we are headed in terms of using AI to really better the collection of data at source.
Okay. Very interesting. I was going to ask you: are you going to use Gen AI to understand how this parsing can be automated? But it's quite interesting to know. Okay, you are already doing it. You've briefly touched upon essentially not having reliant on 100% Gen AI for cyber detection, right? But do you see that future maybe 5-10 years down the lane where largely most of the SOC operations are automated through Gen AI? And if you can share some thoughts on, can that be done at all in like 5-10 years down the line? Let's say reduce a SOC team by let's say 50-60% and still get the Gen AI to manage a lot.
So it has already happened, right? I just told you in my experience that we won 30x in terms of volume, and the teams have not grown up significantly, right? So
50%.
a lot is already being done. Now, whether I'm going to trust it 100%, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen yet
Okay.
the capabilities of the platform to be able to give that answer. The other thing that I am cognizant of that is that there are two dimensions in which security will gets manifested. One is the changing tech landscape, right? So what is it that you are exposing yourself to, right? It used to be typical client servers, and it became clients, and then became cloud, and now IoT, and then it could be embedded devices. And so I don't know what the compute landscape looks like, right? So I don't know 5, 10, 15 years from now what the compute landscape, how much of tech becomes part of us as individuals, as organizations, beyond what is already there, how pervasive that will be. So that is one factor. And therefore attached to it is how diverse is my threat landscape going to be now, and is AI going to be able to keep pace at both of these dimensions, and therefore I should be able to trust it to, so I can understand one variation and you can kind of allow it to grow on that. But if it's two dimensional and changes happening on both sides, you will want some human element to verify. So maybe the verification is where you will put more efforts in, not in monitoring. So the traditional SOC monitoring or the console operations,
Yeah.
that can actually go away. A lot of incident response can be automated and go away. So you can have automated response. So let's say you can target and say, you know what, 70-80% of incidents should be automatically remediated. That may be today 30-40%. So those all will happen. But where there is a high impact or there's a significant change, you will want a pair of eyes to have a look at it.
Okay. I mean, this essentially goes perfectly into my next question, right? Which is, if you are reliant on AI or Gen AI to automate a lot of these things, or essentially have a manual intervention when it's needed, explainability becomes quite critical, right? Explainability is something that even very large, let's say, OpenAI for that matter, is facing a lot of issues with how do you explain something that is generated by Gen AI, right? So, how do you ensure key essentially, is there any rule book is there anything that you can tell us on how do you ensure key whatever decisions that are taken by Gen AI are indeed interpretable by actually pair of human eyes and then make sense and take actions.
So unlike an open AI platform, which is very diverse in what it tries to answer
Correct.
for, right? You can ask literally any question in the world, right? Thankfully, security is still a fairly restricted field in terms of what you can or what you could ask and what answers you can expect. So it is relatively easier to test and verify, right? So you for most parts you will be able to have a set of use cases that could be thrown at it with variations therefore, and you can get and you know what answers to expect, right? So when let's say today on a chat gpt I could ask the questions of what we are having this conversation for, and it's supposed to give me an answer, or I could ask for a recipe, or I could
Yeah.
ask for what to visit. So it's just and it's very difficult therefore to go and verify each potential permutation combination, which is not what you are today in security, at least right now, right? So as far as the hallucination factor is concerned, that is a bit of a that's a less issue. As far as explainability is concerned, there is a fairly defined feature engineering and feature extraction model that exists for security, right?
Okay.
And the kinds of models that you use are fairly standard algorithmic models, CNNs, RNNs. So these are have been around for a very, very long time, and those models at least are understood well enough by statisticians, by mathematicians, by scientists. So to that degree, I think there's a less of a issue that I can see. Not to say it will not come in the future, because as let's say, uh, I mean, I think about it as you're already embedding technology in the human being, right? And then it's going to generate data, and that's going to get monitored. And I think that brings a completely new dimension of what kind of data we're talking about and what impact that for it could have. Now, those as diversity of that consumption of technology increases, we'll start landing ourselves into a much wider security landscape or coverage landscape, and that maybe the way today we solve the problems with RNNs and CNNs may not be applicable, right? And in that case, if you have to depend on LLMs, then the same issue will come up what we are facing in the regular LLM world.
Okay. So speaking of this, right? Essentially, the whole AI, it's very expensive to train a model, right? And so, what are some of the techniques that are available to ensure that even small companies can still develop and train their models on? For specifically in the context of cybersecurity, can you throw some light on that aspect as well?
So, thankfully, in security, data accessibility is not a problem. So one of the big costs that comes up is getting access to data. I mean, where you get access from data.
Correct. Correct.
So
Correct.
today,
Correct.
you for a fairly limited cost, you have a lot of data available that is accessible, and thankfully, good guys share data, right? So it is not that people are holding information saying that well, my model has to be better than yours or whatever, right? So the one big cost that people have is data. So that at least to a great degree is sorted out. As I mentioned, the models that exist, or at least that have been proven, are fairly standard, been there for a while. So I'm assuming the skill set needed is also relatively less expensive. I mean, again, it's all relative terms, right? What is still a bit of a challenge is depending on how you intend to use the model for your own capability, is the whole feature extraction and feature uh, engineering part. So let's say for us, when you're looking at EDR, and I'm new to this whole space, right? But I realize that a single Adobe file is about 3,500 different features to extract. Now that someone has to know, right? And that's an Adobe, and then you'll go to varieties of different kinds of data points that you get access to. So that capability is not transferable. So you may have built a retail model, doesn't necessarily translate from a skill set perspective to a security model. So that I think is a bigger roadblock than anything else. Being able to get someone who understands that same piece of technology from a security
Perspective.
perspective for as far as AI ML is concerned,
Okay.
right? So,
That's
so I
just
think that's
quite.
what the bigger issue is. Yeah.
That's quite interesting, right? Essentially, so where do you see Pankit essentially if in the future, the AI and humans coming together to automate a lot of these things, right? Essentially, do you think you already mentioned about your SOC team not expanding more than 50% while you are handling for 40 times more data.
Traffic. Yeah.
That's quite interesting. So where do you see this evolving to, let's say in 5, 10 years down the lane?
So I think two, three parts. One, the devices themselves will become, from a security perspective, much more smarter, right? So today, uh, the larger AI ML capacity is centralized. right? So it's happening at a SOC level or at a uh,
Hmm.
or at a cloud level. At
Hmm.
the edge, it is still fairly light, in the sense
Hmm.
you are allowing it to
Hmm.
function the way
Correct.
it is with a little bit of capability. As compute, as understanding, as technology improves, some of that workload will get shifted to the edge, is
To
what
the
my
edge.
suspicion is,
Hmm.
right? You
Hmm.
can't be dependent on. So let's say for our EDR, we have chosen to have the complete ML capability on the edge. We are not putting it on the cloud. We trust now,
Hmm.
because the endpoints are now becoming fairly heavy and therefore
Hmm.
can handle a compute capacity. So why don't we give it that? Because a disconnected device is a
Hmm.
problem, right? So I'm not
Hmm.
connected to cloud, and I'm not able to go to centralized
Hmm.
cloud to be
Hmm.
able to
Hmm.
see what is good, bad, ugly. And if I'm plugging
Hmm.
in a USB there at locally, how am I going to secure myself, right? So
Yeah.
one pattern I will see is that the technology that are being deployed at edge from a security
Hmm.
perspective will
Hmm.
become more
Hmm.
and more stronger, and
Hmm.
therefore allowing it to reduce what actually will come to a traditional security monitoring place. Second area is the whole incident response piece. And I think
Hmm.
today,
Hmm.
incident response, whatever people may say, and all this investments and money in SOAR, it is in maybe the high teens or low 20s in terms of the volume of incidents that are getting automated. People
Hmm.
still don't trust and don't want
Hmm.
to do automation to this, because there is a worry in terms of
Yeah, of
what,
course.
are you breaking more than what you're fixing, right?
Hmm.
So that, I think, where there's a lot of human intervention that is going in remediation,
Hmm.
will, over a period of time, that number should flip to more an 80-20, where 80 is automated and 20 is kind of
Hmm.
manual, or maybe at some point of time
Hmm.
100% automated, right? So that's the second flip that I see from a
Hmm.
what I see long term. And third is, as industrial IoT, autonomous devices, so where penetration of technology becomes very, very pervasive. Uh,
Hmm.
Today, they are surviving on what is the segregated networks and completely air-gapped environments.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
that no longer will hold true, and therefore the whole security realm gets crafted around that. So today, that is still up in the air. And I, sometimes I say I believe in God, because I look at these environments and they're not getting hacked, and why are they not getting hacked? Or they're getting hacked and we don't know about it, right? So
We
it
probably
is
don't know
only
about it.
Bhagwan
Yeah.
Bharose. Yeah, it's all Bhagwan
Yeah.
Bharose, sometimes I feel. Right. So I think that's where I think we will see a significant impact
Hmm.
of how AI will play over a period
Hmm.
of time.
That's very nice. That's very nice. Yeah, I mean, for the large part, I agree with whatever you say. Only thing that I don't disagree is that probably the devices are already under attack and we just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
That's a common thing that I see. So coming to your company, right? So how can you help enterprises essentially adopt, save significant costs on whatever they're doing by with the advent of AI, with the users of rather AI in your products? What can you do for enterprises to bring their costs down? Can you throw some light
Yeah. So
on
so
your
if you look at
offerings?
our yeah, so if you look at our mission is to
Hmm.
basically allow enterprises to digitally transform themselves,
Hmm.
and we basically say you transform without fear of security, because we are there to
Hmm.
cover it for you, right? So we are, as a
Hmm.
trusted partner, we are simplifying security. And this mission applies a lot to the mid markets. If you look at these mid market companies, whether you are a mid-sized bank or a mid-sized insurance company or a mid-sized pharma company or a manufacturing company or services organization, your challenges are no different than your larger brethren, right? So cooperative bank in India has no different threat landscape than a large bank in India. They're the
Hmm.
same,
Correct. Correct.
right? In fact, they are far more easier to attack, and therefore they are far more susceptible to an attack than compared to a larger one. But they don't have resources, and they don't have resources either to financial resources to buy these complicated technologies, and nor do they have the resources to understand what they need and how to, assuming if they understand how to buy and then
Hmm.
implement and manage and run. So I think the way we have looked at this whole capability is to bring a
Hmm.
combination of product, platform,
Hmm.
and people. So all the three P's of how security works. And what we are telling the customer is that you focus on your business and we focus on your security. And we
Hmm.
are able to do it because we ourselves are not deploying armies of people to solve it. The moment you have armies of
Hmm.
people, there'll always be a gap, and there's a churn, and there's attrition, and there is a ramp up time, and a lot of other challenges that come up when you start depending on individuals, right?
Hmm.
So trusting technology to a great deal allows us to then give you a capability that is
Hmm.
uh, as good as what some of the largest competitors of theirs are
Hmm.
having in the market space, but at a price point that is far more acceptable to you,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So we make it so we are basically our thinking or our approach is that security which tends to be very elitist, right? It is
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
it is like a
Correct.
Sanskrit script, right? You need to know
Yeah.
Sanskrit to be able to know the Vedas and to be able to do carry out the
Yeah.
puja. Now that's not the way it's supposed to work,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if I only know three-letter acronyms, I can understand security, and that's not
Hmm.
what's going to happen in the mid market. So we are
Hmm.
saying that I'm going to give you the three P's.
Hmm.
I'm going to use extensively AI and ML to reduce the people dependency. And I'm
Hmm.
going to give you an outcome as a service, and you focus on your business, and I deliver the outcome to you. Right? That's
Hmm.
that's the approach that we've taken, and AI allows us to be that cost effective.
Hmm.
That's what they want to see at the end, because at the end, that's the limited budget that they have to spend.
Hmm. 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 Okay. Wow. Okay, that's quite a lot that you're doing, right? Essentially, what are you doing? If people have to know more about you, what are you doing at AISS? For people who don't know about AISS, AISS is one of the largest events in cybersecurity that TSC organizes. And Pankit, essentially, where can people find you at AISS in
So we
case
have
if
a
they want to
booth
know
there.
more about your?
Yeah, so we have a booth there. So you will see us. We are a silver sponsor. Very proud to be associated with. So we have a association with DSCI for a very very long time. We are the proud winners of the Security Product Company of the Year award in 2018-19. I'm dating myself, right? So one of the earliest ones to. I think this was the second year of it being launched as a product award. We won the award. We've been associated with most events. We've done so many things together. We were on this tour with you guys in the US right now. So we love what DSCI does. You've done a, I mean, amazing contribution to the security ecosystem, and proud to be attached to you. So we'll be there in as a booth. I have a speaking slot. I don't know. I still don't know the exact timing, but one of the days I'll be there out speaking on a lot of what I've just covered today, but also how the contextual threat landscape has changed, and therefore how one can look at solving the security conundrum as it might be. So look forward to seeing people on the call between 4th and 6th of December in New Delhi. I think it's Pulben, right? This time around.
Yeah, yeah, it's a, so please join us from 4, 5, and 6 of December. It's in Pullman in Aerocity in Gurgaon. So we look forward to seeing you all, and then Pankit and the Sequretek team will be occupying the first stall at the Innovation Arcade, and we look forward to seeing you all there. And then I look forward to having you meeting a Sequretek team and see how they can enable you go through the business, the digital transformation without having to worry about security.
You
With
said it
that,
much nicer than
we'll
I did. You said it much nicer than I did. So I think I'll steal that line from you, I guess.
All right. So, thank you. With that, we'll close it here, and I look forward to having Pankit on it over at ASS to listen to more about what Securetech and how they're using the AI in their products and how they're helping a lot of businesses. With that, we'll close it here. Thank you so much, Pankit, for your time, and it's
Thank you.
been a pleasure interacting with you. I didn't know for the fact that Adobe has so many features that you have to extract, and it's so interesting that you are using AI to just even do the parsing of different files as a change. So that's quite interesting. Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
your.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.